it's an absolutely outrageous slur. You know, we had this a few years ago with the UN ambassador.
What is? That guys are hitting on women?
Yeah, I think it's an absolute slur. The idea that, you know, misogynistic men across Britain are lining up to try and get young, cute Ukrainian refugees to stay in their homes. I mean, it's such a nonsense. We've had thousands and thousands of families in the UK putting forward their homes to house refugees. We've had incredible, embarrassing sloth from the government and bureaucracy. Because, in fact, and I know this because I've been fundraising to bring a couple of young people over, and one of them, the boy, has got his right to travel. The girl hasn't, precisely because of the amount of inspections. Every single council has to inspect every single home to see it's appropriate. And then anyone in that house has to go through a DBS check, you know, a barring service check, police check, to make sure they're OK. So that's all already happening. Has massively slowed down anyone getting here. And this is yet another excuse. We had the UN do this with an ambassador a few years ago when they said all of Britain is racist. Now, Britain is, you know, awash with misogynist, predatory men. They even said in this report that interestingly, it was a safeguarding officer for an NGO whose job it is to make out that this stuff is absolutely everywhere, saying that the refugee scheme was like Tinder for sex traffickers. I think we should really object to this. There's no proof. And, of course, you'll get the odd troll on Facebook or on social media saying something stupid like, sure, you can come and share my bed. There's always going to be a few idiots out there. But I think it's also suggesting that Ukrainian women are so stupid that they'd go along with sexist blokes, when if the Ukrainian women I know would give them a really, really hard time.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think it's in the Times newspaper, Chris. They've done an undercover investigation, and they've referenced some of the comments, for example, that they've received posing as a Ukrainian lady. They've had men saying, you know, you can share my bed. Are you married? Are you single? Are you looking for whatever? You know, so it is happening. And actually, I don't mean to be offensive, because before I need to put a caveat on, this is not all men, before men start writing in saying, what are you doing, undermining us. But there will absolutely be some men that sit there thinking, fantastic. There's an opportunity to get a single woman, a vulnerable single woman in my house. And Ceri, I actually think that some people will take advantage of that. Chris, am I wrong?
I do agree with you, actually, Michelle. I think this is a scandal waiting to happen. Obviously, the vast majority of people are going to take in refugees in good faith. But, I mean, it can't be denied there are people out there who will try and exploit this situation. It might not happen very often, but I would be amazed if it doesn't happen at all. And therefore, then what happens? You know, then the social services, local councils all get blamed for it. What were you thinking, putting in single women with these blokes? I mean, they're not all women and children, these refugees. Men over the age of 60 can come over. Can't we just give these single men an old bloke to live with?
Well, yeah, you'd imagine so. Amy?
Yeah, I totally agree. The government has taken a kind of, you already referenced it, Michelle, but a sort of shockingly hands-off approach to this matching scheme so far. They have this week launched a sort of government-backed version of the matching, but to date we've taken in 12,000, I think as of a couple of days ago, 12,000 Ukrainian refugees, because our process is completely incompetent. And I think what it reflects is that for years the Home Office has been working towards a system of making entering the UK increasingly hostile, and you see that playing out now because we're not able to quickly mobilise to help people in need. And I would totally disagree with Ceri that I'm sure that many strong Ukrainian women would, under normal circumstances, not go anywhere near any of these men with a barge pole. These women should not be having to even deal with advances like that in a context like this. For it to be a requirement that people match themselves before they can apply for a visa while fleeing a war zone just seems completely nonsensical. And I do think it's a complete shame, given the phenomenal outpouring of generosity we've seen from the British public, to let a few, even if it is only a few, although I think the Times investigation suggests it's more prevalent than any of us would like to see, but to let that sully what otherwise is a phenomenal demonstration of support and compassion, that kind of behaviour and the lack of action from the government to support people to do this like safely and efficiently, I think is a total blight.
I totally disagree, Amy, and I'm surprised at you, Chris, because you're so good at challenging the regulation of everyday life. And actually what this Times report and these other reports are saying is the problem is that it's the British public putting themselves forward, unregulated, because we can't be trusted. We're awash with misogynist, predatory men, which I profoundly disagree with. The best thing about this scheme, compared with all the hostile environment stuff that you point to, Amy, that's true, exists, is that British people and families are actually allowed to take refugees for a change, except the government and the bureaucracy and actually the inspections and the DBS checks and the complete mess that this system is preventing that happening. And the idea that a few backward comments by trolls on social media means that this should be stymied and we need a new system, which is what they're calling for, a new regulated refugee system, you can imagine it means that even fewer refugees will ever get here. And I would say to people, look, British families are really well-meaning and enthusiastic and want refugees to be able to come here. And there are very rare indeed, cases of predatory men who will even fill the forms in that's required.
Can I please speak out in praise of Britain, right? I'm sorry, but I feel the need. Like you're mentioning, for example, Amy, and we're being, lots of criticism about the process and the speed and all the rest of it. I actually look at the fact that we've got over 1,000 people in situ in this country now, over 12,500 visas issued, as a really good thing. This war is less than 50 days old, so we've acted remarkably quickly. People are constantly putting the UK down for what we haven't done or what we should have done better or we should have done quickly. But actually, I think credit where credit's due. I think that is a really good achievement.
So I don't think that I'm not putting down the UK. I actually think the demonstration of generosity from the UK public has been phenomenal. I think they've been let down by the government process that has not enabled it.
But this is what I'm saying. I actually think I'm giving credit to the UK government for this process. I think that having over 1,000 people from a war zone in less than 50 days... This war is less than 50 days old.
But we're doing so badly compared to others. So
compared to who?
Ireland.
Tell me like who?
So Ireland have a population a tenth of ours. They've taken double the number of refugees at this point.
Well, I am very glad that you've brought Ireland up because, let me tell you for why I am glad that you've brought Ireland up, because I hear this all the time. People say, well, what about Ireland? What about Ireland? What about Ireland? Well, I'll tell you what about Ireland. Let me just find my paper, because I am sure that I made a note of this as I came in. Because people say all the time, well, what about Ireland? Well, so this is not the only foreign situation at the moment that's requiring support for refugees. Afghan, for example. The UK evacuated some 15,000 Afghans to the UK last August. You know how many Ireland did, if my facts are correct? About 500. So this is where I get a little bit frustrated. When you're talking about, oh, let's compare the UK and Ireland, I'll give you another example. The UK is currently spending almost £5 million a day to house people in hotels. 25,000 asylum seekers, 12,000 Afghan refugees. I bet my bottom dollar that Ireland are not doing that. So I just get a little bit tired of people constantly knocking this government when actually it isn't just Ukraine that is in conflict, upheaval. We are an island. We can only do so much. And I actually think, credit where it's due, Boris Johnson, if you're watching, I think this government is doing a good job and we should celebrate it more rather than knocking the responses that we offer as a country.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.